By the way, the bottom of the Dead Sea is the lowest point on earth. There are ancient remains of two burned cities there, exactly where Sodom and Gomorrah should have been. Let's move on to the next story. Judas Iscariot and Simon Peter were two of the 12 disciples that Jesus called to follow him. They both walked with Jesus, served others, and saw Jesus do incredible things. But neither one really understood Jesus' mission on earth or their role in it. At least twice, the 12 argued about which one of them would be greatest in the new kingdom that Jesus would start as king. They thought that Jesus would lead a political overthrow of the Roman occupation of Israel. Once Jesus even said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men." Judas and Peter experienced two of the greatest failures of any of the disciples. Jesus even told each one how they would fail ahead of time. Judas would betray Jesus, and Peter would deny Jesus. Judas betrayed Jesus by leading the Roman soldiers to capture him, and identified him with a kiss, as it was customary for Jewish men to greet with a kiss at the time. Now Peter denied that he knew Jesus 3 times in the city after Jesus was captured. They both realized the horrible sins against Jesus that they had committed. In Matthew chapter 27, Judas says to those who conspired to kill Jesus, "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and he hanged himself. I guess Judas gave up. He thought that his sin was too great for forgiveness and couldn't bear to live any longer. Christians tend to label Judas as some horribly evil person, but he was one of the 12. He ministered to people alongside Jesus and the others. He must have been well connected with powerful people. He seemed smart, and he was brave. We might call him a smooth operator. He believed without a doubt that Jesus was powerful and would rise to the challenge, rescue Israel, and save all his disciples from harm. Judas was the executive, maybe even the chief financial officer of the 12. Judas believed so strongly that Jesus was the political salvation of Israel that he took matters into his own hands and he forced the issue. He didn't dream that Jesus wouldn't fight back, because he had seen Jesus' power over everything, including wind, water, sickness, even death. He had seen Jesus escape the authorities many times. Perhaps he believed that capture of Christ would spark the national rebellion, and Jesus would be forced to use his power to overthrow the Romans. Regardless, Judas had chosen a future where he would be the hero, manipulating Jesus for his own agenda. And when he was proven wrong, he couldn't humble himself before God and begin again. Peter's sin was at least as bad, maybe worse. While Jesus was being questioned and tortured, Peter chose to save his own life instead of admit that he was with Jesus. Unlike Judas, Peter didn't even believe that Jesus could save himself or anyone else. Peter was a complete coward. He was also a complete hypocrite. Only the day before, Peter had boasted to Jesus, "Even if I have to die with you, I'll never disown you." But Matthew 26, verse 75, records Peter's third denial during that terrible night. It says, "Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, 'I don't know the man.' Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus had spoken, 'Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times.' And he went outside and wept bitterly." That night, as Jesus was being tried before his execution, both Judas and Peter lost everything they had invested years building. Their plans were ruined, their reputations destroyed. Life as they knew it was over. But they made very different choices afterward. Peter was singled out by an angel who spoke to the women who visited the tomb after Jesus had risen. The angel said, "Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, He is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." It was as if the angel knew Peter's bitter sorrow. One thing distinguished Peter from Judas. Before Jesus led the disciples to Jerusalem, he asked them a question recorded in Matthew chapter 16. "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." You see, Jesus renamed Simon to Peter, which means rock. Peter knew the identity of Jesus. Even though he'd committed the most horrible sin he could imagine, which was denying Christ, he chose a future with God. It turned out that Peter the hypocrite and coward was a better man than Judas, the smart, brave revolutionary. Peter began again with God. Little did he know that terrible night that Jesus would rise from the grave and would make him one of the most significant Christians in human history. Peter went on to establish countless churches all over the Middle East as a faithful apostle of Christ. 2 of his letters are preserved forever in the Bible. He never denied Jesus again. So, I have a choice whenever I lose, fail, or suffer. I can begin again with God, or I can live alone in blame and regret. God's way has hope and joy. With God's blessing, I may even have some success. I'm a little like Judas, and Peter too. I've tried to manipulate God, and at times I've been a coward or a hypocrite. But like Peter, I know Jesus, and I've seen his forgiveness in my life. Have you recently lost or failed or suffered pain or injustice? For this new year, I hope that you choose to begin again with God, because he makes all the difference. Happy New Year.